I'm gonna try to avoid going into the zone if I can. So I'll show you some things we're gonna do to try to stay out of the zone. The reason I don't like a zone, I mean, zone is fairly effective at stopping people from shooting, you know, but you're in terrible position for the counterattack. I wanna put my team in position to counter. I want them in press at the end of the shot clock. So, again, I'll go over that. Okay, just a couple other things, on what we're gonna do. We're coaching this system. We are gonna give the players a chance to create. We're not gonna control every single thing. I mean, Jovan at SC, excellent coach. They won all these championships, but I couldn't play for him. I mean, because I cannot move 1 inch to the left or right without him yelling at me that I did the wrong thing, or you go there, you go there, you go there, play number 5. Never, you know, you have to, everything is choreographed, everything is controlled. He's a very controlling coach, which is very typical of Serbian, Croatian coaches from that part of the world. They're very, I coached with Ratko Rudic for a year when he was coaching the US team. I was an assistant coach on that team. He's also was a very controlling coach. We'd go to a restaurant on a trip, he would order the food for every player, he would order everything. I mean, he controlled everything. I have a million stories about him, but and very typical of Jovan too. And it's worked for Jovan. And a friend of mine, Danny Layson, became the coach at UC Davis. He played for Jovan and he coached with, an assistant coach with Jovan. He went to Davis, and I went up to help him one season, and he started installing all these plays. And I said, well, Danny, why are you doing all these plays? Like on 6-on-5, he'd have 20 6-on-5 plays. I said, they don't know the basic concepts of the 6-on-5. They don't know how to catch and shoot. They're just a basic concept. He said, wow, Jovan has 85 plays, you know, for 6-on-5 in the front court. And I said, and so then why are you doing that? He says, well, they look at all the championships they've won. I said, well, they didn't win because they had 85 plays. They win because he had the best players. You know, he had all these Europeans, brought these guys in, you know, and any system will work if you have really the best players. So, I don't know if Danny's still doing as many plays as he used to, but I mean, he'd go to a game and he'd have them written on the clipboard, and he had so many plays that he'd have to read it on the clipboard, and then players would come over to the side and he'd have to tell them what to do. I said, Danny, if you have to read the play on the clipboard, think how confused the players are when you tell them to run this play. Are they going to remember every single thing? And Jovan does this too. He insists that every move has to be made a certain way. You have to go 3 strokes here and then 2 strokes here, and if you don't do it exactly right, he just gets all over you. So this system is not that kind of a system. It's not there are no set plays. There are no patterns like that wheel I showed you. There's not going to be a pattern like that. It's going to be, we give you a concept, we're opening up the space in front of the goal, we're going to let you create by driving, running screens, and we're just going to give you general concepts and let you give your players a chance to be creative and do things like that. What happens when you have all this set play and you run the play and it doesn't work? Now what do? They look up at the coach. Now what do we do? You know. So this is more of an open system, a creative system. You will give them parameters, you will give them concepts, but you will not dictate everything. In fact, there's a system in basketball called the system. It's a run and gun system. And I read that book. The coach says, I just go, during the game, I go down to the end of the bench and just sit there and watch them play. And every once in a while, I'll call timeout. You know. So timeouts are another way, by the way, where the coach controls the team. You know, yeah, you really don't have to call as many timeouts as we do. I actually gave you the example of 6-on-5. It's not necessary to call it a timeout. But I'll talk about that later on. Okay, the other thing is that this concept of being in better shape than the other team, you have to be in shape to counter, and to do this, you have to condition your players have to be in better shape than the other team. Chip Kelly at Oregon, again, if you get a chance to read the book about him and his system is based also on the run and gun basketball system. And he, in fact, Paul Westfall, who used to coach LMU and the Lakers, ran a run and gun system. And he became the women's basketball coach at Oregon. At the same time Chip Kelly was there. The two of them exchanged a lot of ideas. But Chip Kelly would say, you know, we don't run laps. We don't condition at the end of practice. We don't condition before practice. We condition during practice. And this is what the whole thing is about. You get your people in shape to counterattack by doing counterattacks in practice. You don't get them in shape by going a set of 10 200s. That's not going to get you in shape for a counterattack. And so I will go over a conditioning system. The system I used at Stanford, my background, after I decided I didn't want to be an engineer anymore, my background was in exercise physiology. And so this is one of the first things that I figured out, that we waste a lot of time swimming laps. We really do. What other sport? You don't see a basketball coach going out there. Okay, let's go out and run 5 miles before we start practice. They don't, and they might run in the off season, but even that's not necessary. But once season starts, all their conditioning is in practice. John Wooden at UCLA won 9 or 10 national championships, something like that. How many? 11. They had hour and a half workouts. Hour and a half. You know, I mean, I know coaches that go 4-hour workouts. I know coaches that go 8 hours a day during the hell week before school starts. I know national team coaches, Radko Rudic, who used to go 8 hours a day. And Rudic, the year before the Olympic Games, when he was here coaching the U.S., they were swimming 15 to 18,000 meters a day. 10 400s, 15 300s, 20 200s.
So what you're saying is we should be recruiting milers.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah. It's like a 100-meter runner training to run a marathon. You know, it's the same concept. So anyway, I will go over the conditioning also. So. Yeah, conditioning has to be game related. You know, and so most of your conditioning, if you do it right, most of your conditioning you can do in practice. Okay, so we will definitely go over that. Let's get a drink of water here. Restroom. Okay, you put that waste, oh, that'll stay. Okay, I want to get into our front court attack. Again, if you have any comments or questions as we go along, feel free to ask me. But I'm gonna use these concepts, motion, space, all these things to create our front court attack. So I'm going to give them certain rules to follow. I'm not giving them a pattern of play or anything like that. I'm just giving them certain rules to follow, and they make up their own pattern. But the first thing we have to do, first of all, our front court attack starts with the counterattack. Okay? It starts with a counterattack. And so even if you don't have a free man in the counterattack, we can create a free man. And what we do at the end of the counterattack, we're all swimming down the pool. By the way, the concept I'm trying to get across here by the quick strike and being aggressive is you are shooting when the defense is not ready. Okay? So when you are, you're in control, not the defense. You don't want the defense dictating what you're going to do. You're going to shoot when you want to shoot. And if you wait till the end of the shot clock to take your shot, the defense is in control. You're not in control anymore. So we're gonna try and create, like I told you at the end of the contract, an early shot on the goal. And so, the first thing we wanna do is we wanna get the ball down deep. Okay, you're playing 25-yard pools for the most part, and maybe, even the girls, I think, could throw the ball, 15 yards, 20 yards, so, maybe you might have somebody that can't do that, but for the most part, I want the ball down in this area deep, down the wing. So I'm gonna have the first person down there is gonna release over here. Now, the reason I'm going to the right side, you can go right or left. Yeah, but for the most part, you've got right-handed players, so the pass from the right to the left is better to catch it, right-handed. But you can do it from the left too. And you don't want to get into a pattern where you always throw the ball down the right side of the pool. Anyway, so just for the sake of this drill, we want the ball deep down here. Once we get it down here into that area, and we got players coming down the pool here, in the middle of the pool. We got the ball over here. If the defense, and a lot of teams will not press that. So you almost have a free pass there. If you don't, you can still maybe draw a foul, you might have to pass it under pressure. But most teams, this defender here will kind of hang back looking to see, if there's somebody free coming down the middle or what. But that isn't, once you start doing this, people will probably start pressing you, but right now, they're not pressing. So and if there's anybody here in front of the goal, if you can get the ball to them immediately, if they're free, let's say the defender's here, then you get the ball to them. Or if they're like this, and you can get the ball in there, it doesn't have to be a 2-meter player. Whoever gets there, if they have a clear opportunity to pass the ball, then you pass the ball in there. If they don't get the ball in 2 seconds, 3 seconds, I want them out of there. I want them to clear out. I don't want them to stay in there. Okay, so they clear out, they can go anywhere they want, but I would like them to go somewhere on this side of the pool. So let's say this person here, and the defender's doing a good job, they're gonna be on that side anyway. I want this person here now, they can clear out to a post, take a couple hard strokes to a post, maybe get that cross pass here to the post. If that's not open, they just keep going, and they go out here. Let's say they go out to the wing out here, okay? And then you still got the player, maybe there was somebody there, they would come out here, and you kind of keep that balance. So you kind of balance out. You've got 6 players out here. Now, we've got this open space here. Okay? And this is my first rule, is if you do not receive the ball in this, right in front of the goal, you have to clear out. The other rule I have, this player here has to read the situation. You do not throw the ball in there. If the defender is like that, you don't throw the ball. If the defender's like that, you don't throw the ball. If there's defenders back here, you don't throw the ball. Okay? Now, so we clear this. We don't throw that ball unless you don't want to have turnovers like the Japanese team did. We don't throw it unless there's a clear opportunity for that person to receive the ball and actually do something with it. Take a shot, draw an exclusion, whatever you want that person to do. They have a choice. They can shoot it, they can step out, they can sweep it, they can draw exclusion, whatever they feel they can do. So let's say there's no opportunity to go in there, you throw, you have a person come out here to the wing. Okay? So now we've cleared this area. Now, here's my next rule. And again, this is what Chip Kelly did at Oregon. Everybody said, God, your system is so complicated. He said, no, it's not complicated at all. It's fast. He said, it's fast. And this is complicated for the defense, but not for us, because we practice this all the time. He said, but it's very simple. My quarterback comes up to the line of scrimmage, and then he looks left and right, and he says, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If he sees 8 defensive people in front of the line, he said, we pass it. And he said, if he goes 1, 2, 3, if there's only 4 people there, then we run it. It's that simple. And this is what we do here. If these players are being pressed, here, we drive. Right? So we can run screens and drives. And any one of these players can do it. We could have 3 of them do it. You could have this player running a screen here, this player going this way, and then this player coming around like that. You could have all kinds of stuff going on. And the beauty of this is there's nobody in here to get in the way. Okay, there's nobody in the front of the goal to get in the way. And you're going to get something on that. Okay? Now, if they're playing a zone, okay, so first rule, if they're in a press, you drive or run a screen. If they're in a zone, you throw the cross pass for the shot. Again, you don't have to beat, all you have to do is beat the goalie and the person in front of you off the cross pass. So it's that simple. Drive when you're pressed, throw the cross pass when they're in the zone. And now, let's say they're in they're still, more than likely they're going to be in a press. By the way, this is at the end of the counter like this, the defense is not that organized sometimes, and they will leave people open. And you just got to, this player here is very important. Well, they're all important, but this is the person that's passing over here has to make decisions. It's like being a point guard in basketball. You got to decide what you're going to do with the ball, whether you're going to pass it, throw for a cross pass, throw it in here, whatever. But this is and you have to be able to also, the one difference between basketball and water polo is if I have the ball, I'm the point guard, I'm coming down with the ball, I'm dribbling it, I can pass it anytime I want to. There's a defender in front of me, but I can throw one-handed, a two-handed pass. Water polo, you got somebody on your back, and you've got to be able to turn around and get that pass off. This is a very important skill to be able to pass under pressure, which is a lot of people are having trouble doing, especially at the high school level. So again, this person has to make a decision. Now let's say we run a screen. These 2 people here run a screen. He goes like this. This one comes inside, ends up in here. We have the same rule. You don't throw that ball. Now let's say I'm really under a lot of pressure here, and this player here drops off a little bit. You can throw the ball here and let them pass it. So you got to make a decision if you're going to pass the ball out here. Let somebody else pass it too. It doesn't always have to be this person passing it. But the same rule applies here. If you're like that, the defender's on the left shoulder, and there's nobody dropping off, you don't, or if there is, excuse me, there's nobody dropping off, excuse me, they're still out here pressing, then you throw that ball. Again, if they don't, and you don't sit there and wait for it. 2 or 3 seconds, and then you're out there. You clear out. We don't want to sit there in that position. If the players on the outside suddenly decide to drop off, then we throw the cross pass. And this is why I want this person to clear out of here, because when we're ready to throw this cross pass here, I want that person moving out. So everybody has to read this situation. If I'm the person here in front of the goal, and there's somebody on this side of me like that, immediately I get out. I don't try to maneuver and get around and get in front position and all that. I'll probably get called for an offensive foul. I get out, and I can go to this post, because what's this defender doing? He's watching this. He's watching the ball. He's in front, or on this side, he's watching the ball over here on the wing. And you can go back door here, take off on your stomach, not on your back, because they'll call it offensive. Take off on your stomach, go to the post, and then if you get nothing there, then you clear out again. And you just keep running this all over. You can move the ball to this side. You can drive from this side. There's no set pattern. And everybody has to be aware that a shot could come at any time. So if you're not involved if you don't have the ball in your hand and you're not involved in that drive, you're thinking covering back on defense, okay? Because you know your team is could shoot the ball anytime. It's the surprise shot, and nowadays that it really hurts you on the counterattack. Because your team is not ready for you to shoot the ball, and you shoot quickly, they're not ready for it, and they don't cover back on the counterattack. But if they know that you can shoot the ball at any time, then they can cover back. So this is kind of the the basic part of this. And you keep, there's so many different options, okay?
Dante, can I stop you for a second?
Sure.
So, how would you prevent 2 or 3 guys at the same time going in front of the goal? Because you're giving them the autonomy and the freedom. How would you structure that just enough to where you don't have 3 guys driving in front of the goal, bad pass, counterattack, the other direction?
Yeah, well, I would not prevent them from going 2 or 3 guys, but I would tell the player that's passing the ball, don't throw it in there unless it's clear, you know. So that's how you eliminate the turnover.
Okay, so
Yeah, I know that's, and we used to do this when we drove years ago. We always liked one guy driving, because we used to say, if you get too overcommitted in front of the goal, you can get countered.
Yeah.
But this is where everybody has to make decisions. This is part of your coaching. When you in practice, you have to make decisions. You don't tell them what they're supposed to do, but you give them all these, okay, this person has to decide whether to throw the ball in there or not. This person that's driving has to decide whether to stay there or not, or realize when they're not in position. So you've got to read the defense. This person here has to read the position of the defender. This person over here has to read if they're dropping or not. So it's all reads. And then this is, again, the same concept that Chip Kelly uses at Oregon. It's reads. They read, if a defender does one thing, they do something else. You know, and it's just a matter of reading and not throwing the ball in there. I mean, I know it's happened to you guys, it's happened to me too. A post player on the post on 6-on-5 is sitting there, there's a defender here, there's a defender here, there's a defender here, and they still throw the ball at me. You know, I mean, that's not reading the situation. You know, that's a terrible read. But you know, you have to do this. But you have to do this in practice. You can't just tell them you have to read. They have to learn that, and when they don't read it correctly, then you have to point that out too.
Coach,
Yeah.
one of the things, because I've read a lot of your articles that you posted on Waterpolo Planet, and I've thought about this system. I think that with what he's saying, I thought that same thing. With a less experienced player, it's going to be harder because you're going to get more people going, and that's going to put you. What about the concept of like a designated driver and a secondary driver? So that like you're the best driver on this team.
Yeah.
Unless you have the ball, you need to be making the decision about what type of drive we want. If you have the ball, then he's the second best driver. I mean, that kind of, I think with a less experienced team or younger players that, I mean, yeah, if you've got a bunch of guys who play NCAA, Division I, MPSF, they can do this and I would trust them to read and react. Sophomore in high school, maybe that structure of, hey, he's going to make that decision for you, go off what he does, and then you have a guy, you know, who maybe is a little bit more experienced saying, hey, I'm going to run the 32, you come off it, and you know.
And you know, that's fine. That's fine. And because I realize the situation. You might have one really good driver and 5 people that can't swim or something. You know, I mean, so and you can have priorities, and that's we used to have priorities. We got you're a first driver, you're a second driver, you're a third driver. First driver, you have priority. Wherever you are in the pool, you're the first one to go. If you're not in position to drive, then the number 2 person has a chance to go. And then you can also do this. Here's your best driver right here. Okay? You tell the person, okay, whenever we get the ball down the pool, and the ball's on this side, I want the person next to our best driver. Here's the best driver right here. I want the person next to him to run a screen for my best driver. And my best driver comes in and does something in there. Or my best post-up player or something like that. Yeah. And you know, even that crowded condition that you were talking about, where you have 2 or 3 people going in there, you know, you can work, you do that in practice. I did this with the UC Santa Barbara water polo team a week ago. We spent 2.5 hours working on this, and they loved it. And the way we did it is you do a drill where it's 3-on-3 drill. And you start 3 guys at half court, 1 guy with the ball, and you say, okay, blow the whistle, you have 10 seconds to create a shot, or you give them a time limit. The first time you don't give them a time limit, but then you, in order to make them put a little pressure on them to do something, and they were doing all kinds of stuff. The ball would come down, this guy would swim in like this, and this guy would swim in like this, now we got two people in there, well, this guy would swing around on this side, or he'd go behind him, or like you were saying, 3 people in there, well, yeah, say we got 3 people in there, okay? And we got 3 people like this, okay, you got a defender here, a defender here, a defender here, how about just going around and popping right out to here, to the pass here for the shot? You know, there's so many things you can do, but you have them do this in practice every day, and you have them create these situations every day. And I would not get on them about doing this. I'd say, okay, if you have 3, make something out of it. Create an opportunity out of it. What I would get ticked off at with my players is if it's there's a mess there, there's clearly nobody open, and this player tries to force the ball in there. That's where you have to really get, you know. And again, it's making, and this concept of making good decisions. That's all part of it. And that the only way you can teach them how to make good decisions is you have to make them make decisions in practice. So your drills, they can't be so structured when you run a drill that player A goes here, player B goes here, and player C does this. You can't structure this. You let them be creative, and you force them to make decisions in practice on whether to throw the ball, what to do in a situation, and every situation is going to be different. Okay? I mean, there's so many possibilities, and only by doing this in practice every day can you see all these different possibilities and learn from them. And again, you might do one thing in a structured drill where you tell them, okay, player A is going to go here, player B is going to go there, player B is going to swing around the outside. Okay, that may never happen in a game, you know. But if you do this 3-on-3 or 4-on-3 over and over and over again in practice, they're going to have hundreds of different possibilities. And again, that's when they have to make decisions. So this organizing your practice is really important in that. You know, in a game, it's not a game of lines. We set up drills in practice. We have lines. You don't do that in water polo. You know, and there's a name for this, by the way. It's called organized chaos. And if your players do it all the time in practice, it's organized for them. Whereas disorganized is for the defense, because the defense is going to get confused. And there's going to be a defensive player that's going to, like, 2 defenders are going to guard 1 person. They're not going to talk to each other. They won't make a switch, and they'll end up 2 guarding 1 and leaving somebody else open. And so that's where the player that's open has to realize they're open. By the way, the players in here always have to be ready to receive the ball. Okay? They always have to be ready to receive the ball. They have to be able to receive it from all different angles. They have to be able to receive it dry. They have to be able to receive it wet. They have to be able to receive it with their back to the goal. They have to be able to receive it while they're moving. So these players have to be able to do all these different things. What was it? Oh, on the chaos, yeah. And they have to also recognize when they're open and be ready to receive the ball at all times. So they have to know where the ball is. They have to know if that person can pass them the ball. And then this person here, again, as I said before, had to make decisions on what to do on this. But again, you get 2 people in there like that, and you have something like this where 2 defenders are guarding that person, and this person just pops out a little bit like this, or swims around, or this person swims behind them like that. Both players follow that person as they're swimming behind like this, and then this player is open in the center. Again, you're more organized than the defense is. And even if you don't know what you're doing something, you're moving, and you're going to create something because the defense is going to screw up in that situation. So, now the difference from what I talked about earlier, what some of the women's teams were doing at NCAA is they had a stationary 2-meter man in there, and they just drove like 5 people in there, you know, and they're just all over the place. And every once in a while they would create something, but it's a lot easier with 2. I would say 2 would be a good number, and you try to emphasize that. You say, you know, if there's already 2 people going, then maybe that 3rd person shouldn't go. But, you know, it's up to you. The 3rd person might say, hey, those 2 people driving ahead of me, it created something for me, so maybe I can go and do something, you know, so, I think, a 3-on-3 drill is a great way to do this, a 4-on-3 drill, where you have one person over here with the ball, and you have 3 players here, okay, or 2 players there, and they just have to create something, you know, and, the Santa Barbara guys were great, I mean, they were doing all kinds of stuff, I mean, I was amazed, and, most of these guys had probably never driven before, you know, or went in, and I said, do whatever you want, just look for an opening, try to create an opening, try to find an opening, take advantage of the defender who's not looking at you, take advantage of the defender that guards you, 2 guys are guarding 1 player, and you're gonna be open, and then make yourself open, you know, make a little move to create an open, passing lane, so you can catch the ball, so, and I believe if you do this every day in practice, and you get in the game, you're gonna win some games just on this, because there's no way the defense can keep up with all that. Okay, so again, these are my, little rules. Get the ball as deep as we can. Don't stay in here for more than 2, if you're ready to receive the ball. You have to move out, create that space, drive on the press, throw the cross pass on the zone, and like I can drive in here like this, and I'm going to be open, and a lot of times some teams will bring it into the defender from here to go in and help on that driver, and so again, this player here has to realize that he's open, but here's the ball over here, so you just got to move out just a little bit, so you open up that passing lane so you can catch the ball and take the shot.
So the passer in that instance, would they be going by the rule that there's not a clear opportunity in the middle, but basically that person who's dropping from 1 is zoning, so
Yeah.
that's a cross pass catch and shoot.
Exactly.
So that's the rule they're going back to.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And help, there's teams are gonna try to beat the system by helping in, and when they're helping in, that means they're leaving somebody open on the outside. Now,
Help and shoot.
yeah, and see, the thing that really makes a big difference to me, the reason people don't take 5-meter shots when they're fouled at 5 meters, because there's too many people in the way. And the reason why people aren't shooting a lot of times, because there's a 2-meter man and a defender camped in front of the goal. It's just too many bodies in front of the goal.
How many times have you seen that direct shot hit the tutor player in the face?
Oh, yeah. And the guard's got the arm up too, so, this cross pass thing is gonna be open. You gotta be able to shoot with your back to the goal, you gotta be able to shoot facing the goal. So these are the kind of shooting drills you do. Shooting drills should be directly related to the kind of shots you're gonna get in the game. Now I'm gonna have a shooting drill where I'm swimming and somebody throws me the ball as I'm swimming. I'm about on the 3 or 4 and I'm swimming and somebody has to throw me the ball, I have to catch it and strike and take the shot. What kind of shot do you take? What's the timing of that? We worked on that, like I said, every day in practice on our drives. And as you're driving in, we work on this, the passer should, as my hand hits the water here, they should throw the ball so that my hand comes like this, and when my hand comes up here, the ball should be landing in my hand. So, and throw the ball from the left side, sometimes. Throw the ball from behind, I swim in, stop, get the ball from behind. Now that's a difficult pass to make. And sometimes you would not make that pass. If the ball's out here and the defender's like that, that's a pass that's really tough to make. So the ball pretty much has to come in from the side, but it could come in from either side. And you've got to be able to handle the ball from either side. You've got to be able to shoot the ball off the water. When you're facing the goal, you've got to be able to shoot the ball off the water. This is a skill that we'll talk about a little later on, but you've got to protect that ball and get a shot off. That is not a real high percentage shot, but you're going to get those. You can draw a 5-meter on that for sure. With the ball in front of you. And Then you've gotta be able to shoot with your back to the goal. So you gotta post up. The thing I like about this too, let's say, there's the ball's over here, and you drive, well, this defender here, if you're a right-hander here, he can foul you and then drop in, right? But, you know, if you drive from here, and you drive to this area, how far back can that person drop? I mean, if you drive from right next to them, right there, they can drop in and take that away from you, they can foul and drop. But if you drive on the opposite side of the goal, the only person that can drop would come from this way, would drop in and help. If that's the case, then we just simply pop out, throw the cross pass. So, reading help defenders is part of this whole system, is reading help defenders. But again, I try to drive to the open side of the goal. I try to drive, again, you might, in this situation, you might have somebody, the ball's here, they might drive from here, okay? Now, this defender, if they're smart, they'll foul and drop, but maybe they won't. And if they do, so what? If that person drops in here, fine, I just take off, clear out. Another thing you have to teach them, besides these different shots, by the way, when you're posting up, you can shoot sweep, left, right, backhand, you can step out, take the shot. You gotta be able to shoot all these different kinds of, what was I saying about the shooting now? Oh boy. I know the point I was gonna make, I keep finding new stuff all the time that I'm gonna say, but, so you drive in, post up, somebody behind you. Yeah. Well, this is another rule I have, by the way. Anytime you're fronted, you immediately go to the other post. Yeah, immediately go to the post, over here. Wherever the post, the direction they give you. Yeah. Oh, I know, I was gonna talk about, we have all kinds of options here. We can run screens too. I'll get into screens in the next session. But we can run screens, this person that's clearing out isn't just clearing out. It's not just a clear out where you just kind of, as you're clearing out, you have to be ready to receive the ball, because if that defender just takes his attention away from you just for a second as you're clearing out, you could receive that cross pass for the shot. And you can also run screens, or what we call reverse screens. Or in basketball, they call them butt screens, where the center just sticks his rear end out and runs the screen. This person clearing out here can come over here, turn his back to that defender, come around here, and we go in from there. He can come out here, run a reverse screen here. This person swings in. So this person that's clearing out has a purpose. They have to be a shooter. They have to be ready to receive the ball at all times. It's just not a casual clear out of there. So there's other options that you have in this offense. So what happens if this person clearing out comes over here, runs a screen, here, runs a screen, this guy goes around like this. At the same time they do that, this person drives here. Well, so now you got two people driving in there. But you know, that's gonna create some confusion too. Now here's where you have to make a decision. You got the ball here, you got two people driving in, one here, one here. Where are the defenders? You know, these two people here have to make decisions. What do I do? Here's a defender here, here's a defender here. Or if I beat a defender, let's say I beat this defender. Here I've got inside water. Now is this defender here gonna switch over? He switches over, then you gotta hit this person. It is all these decisions you gotta make. So, again, practice this all the time. Practice this all the time. And the kids will really get good at it. And believe me, they will enjoy playing this kind of a system, because everybody's involved. But like you said, where you have one good player, one really good player and five, well, everybody has a role. You don't all have to be the shooter, but you, as a coach, you have to stress the role. Okay? It's not that everybody has a particular role, but there has to be 4 or 5 things that have to happen before the shot is actually taken. Okay? And those 4 or 5 things, if any one of those breaks down, you don't get a shot. So you have to stress the importance of all the other little things. It's like if I'm a running back in football and I run up to the line, if those guys in front of me don't block somebody out of the way, I'm not going to be able to go anywhere. I'm not going to score. So I score a touchdown. Everybody goes, "Oh, look at that running back! He scored a touchdown!" Run, and he's up for the Heisman Trophy because he scored 80 touchdowns. But what about all the guys that block for him? To help him score those touchdowns. Without the blocks, there are no touchdowns. And same thing in water polo. Without all these other things that happen, there's no shot on the goal. There's no goal. So it's a total team concept. So let's say you're not the guy that's driving. Okay, somebody has to release for the ball over here. There's your first thing that has to happen. Okay, 2 people here. Somebody has to drive or set a screen. So somebody has to set the screen. Okay, so that's an important thing. You can do one-on-one drives. That's nice, but screens really are effective. They really are. We don't do enough screens in water polo. And again, I'll show you some ways to do screens too. But somebody has to set the screen. Then that person drives in. If there's somebody dropping, then this person here has to be ready to receive the ball. But now somebody has to make this pass. The same person that released out here has to make the pass. So you need that pass to go in there. And then finally we take the shot and we score the goal. But there's about 3 things there that have to happen before we even score the goal. So this is very important. The pass is very important. Setting the screen is very important. And again, you tell the guys, you're like a lineman in football. You didn't score the touchdown, you didn't score the goal, but you helped to. If you didn't do your role, if you didn't do this particular thing like releasing for the ball, we'd never even get the score. And after I retired, I coached a couple of years at Sacred Heart High School in Atherton, and I had a reporter come up to me after one of our games and say, "Hey, well, who's your leading scorer?" And I think it's so and so. And well, how many goals did he score? I said, I have no idea. And I went a whole year. I didn't keep track of goals. I kept track of assists. And at the end of the season, we had a team banquet. I gave the award for most assists, and we had somebody that could keep, really good at doing assists. And we did not reward the leading scorer, and we rewarded the leading assist person because without the assist, the pass leading. So that's on defense. I awarded the person that had the most steals. That means they were playing the passing lane, and they stole the ball. Other things, ways to steal the ball, or they dropped in on the 2 meters and stole the ball. So I awarded the person with the most. So those were the 2 categories that I gave awards for the banquet: assists and steals. And so this emphasizes the team game. It's a team concept. That's all part of this too. Everyone gets involved. Everything is important. Every person is important. And the last thing is the person shooting the ball and scoring the goal. That's the last in the whole chain. If you break up that chain anywhere, it's not going to work. So this is a real important part of the motion offense. This is where your person, the guy that's not such a good shooter, maybe you only have one really good driver. Well, this is where they have a role. They can be the one releasing for the ball. They can be the one passing the ball. They can be the one setting the screen for the driver, that sort of thing. So, let me see here.
Coach, real quick question.
Yeah.
When there's the foul on the ball at its press and that person drops back, do you worry at all about getting that ball live again, or do you just let the play go, and if they want to drop, they can drop?
Yeah, over here on the wing.
Yeah, so if they've fouled there and they're dropping back now,
yeah.
Do you even care about getting that ball back to them live?
No, but
this
person
bring that defender out from the center.
Yeah, if it's a lefty, then you might want to get the ball back and take the shot. But it's a right-hander, and not much of a shot there anyway. So I don't worry about getting that live. I kind of, if they
It'll
do,
get you the
Free
opportunity.
pass.
yeah, if they do, and this person drops, now you got a free pass.
Sure.
And again, if you drive on this side of the goal somewhere, that's an easy pass to make over here, yeah, so. I get, the one that really gets me though, and I used to see this a lot more, is you foul at 5 meters, and you don't even look at the goal, at least look at the goalie, yeah. Just pass the ball and get it live again, now we're gonna look at the goal and get ready to shoot, now the defense is all ready for it.
We're on the extra man where it's, well, my passing pattern, I don't have to shoot, so I'm just gonna
Yeah.
catch and turn it
Yeah,
without even looking at the
exactly.
cage.
Yeah. How do you, our second session starts at 11:30?
Yeah, that's what we got scheduled.
Okay, let's just, maybe we'll spend a minute talking about driving, and,
Can I just make one point
Oh,
about
sure.
what you've just been talking about? Something I've observed, and Breck will probably be able to corroborate this. One of the things that I seem to have seen is that when you start playing at the higher levels, you start learning how to communicate with your teammates much better.
Right.
At the lower levels, it's really difficult. High school, and especially below the age group, they don't want to talk to each other. And so what you're talking about in here, by practicing these, allowing people to create their own plays, they're sort of learning how to communicate with each other in the practice
Yeah.
rather than in a game. Because when they start doing it in the game and they haven't practiced it, they end up screaming at each other rather than communicating with each
Right.
other. And what I was going to say with Breck, we play on Masters, we go out and practice Masters, and we do have some of the older high school kids. We have some seniors that come out and play with us on a regular basis. And they actually learn, when they first come out, they're not communicating at all.
yeah,
And after a while, because all the older people are communicating and telling each other what to do, and,
Right.
and they'll make up.
You mean I don't shut up when I play game?
Yeah, I don't think any of us do. And, even when you're setting a pick, they'll be talking to you as they're coming to set the pick that, hey, pay attention.
Yeah.
I'm doing something here. And they start learning to pay attention. They start learning to react to those things
Right.
more quickly rather than sitting there going, I don't know what's going on. Somebody's doing something and I don't know what to do.
Well, even in your situation where you have 3 guys driving,
sure,
as long as all those guys are driving with their head up and are aware of the other players around them, you're going to be able to work that situation out before the defense does.
Yeah, that's right.
So as long as all of this is predicated on the guys or girls that you're coaching know enough to know, keep your head up and know where everybody else is.
I know where the ball is.
Yeah, find the ball, find the other players.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very basic concept, but that's one of the most important things about driving. You gotta drive your head up, you see people driving all the time like this.
Right.
You know, hey,
Yeah, one of the things I was going to say is even when we're doing picks, it's interesting when you begin, recognizing those, that to communicate, you don't even have to talk.
Yeah.
You can just look somebody in the eye, and they'll know what you're
Yeah,
doing
exactly,
because,
yeah.
and that's part of the communication. You learn that by doing it over and over and over.
It's amazing, but it's pretty much true in all sports.
Yeah.
The more you talk to each other, especially on defense, I mean, you really have to communicate on defense, offense too. But I used to mess around in my younger days, even though I wasn't very tall, played a lot of beach volleyball. And there's only 2 of you, but you still got to communicate. Here comes the ball over the net, on the serve. It's you, or you take, or me. No, you take it. I don't want it. But you have to say that. Here comes the ball between the 2 of you. Who's going to take it? You both go for it and bump into each other, or you communicate and decide who's going to take it. And then the person goes chasing the ball over the side, and you follow them, and you have to let them know that you're there and where you are. Here I am, it's true in all sports. It's just it's amazing. This whole thing about passing and shooting, you have to encourage your players to shoot the ball at every opportunity. Now you don't shoot the obvious, like if you're a right-hander or shooting from the wing over here, and this goalie said that, bad angle shots, but sometimes those will go, but you don't want to discourage your players from shooting the ball. I shoot at every opportunity, and you see this all the time in the front court, and somebody shoots early on the shot clock, and the coach gets all ticked off at that, and if you get ticked off at that, they're never going to shoot the ball. You have to encourage them to do that. You can't get angry with them if they shoot early before the shot clock runs out. And as I mentioned before, you have a better chance of scoring early in the shot clock than you do later in the shot clock. So, you know, as the coach, the other thing, you could, I don't mind a missed shot. I mean, I'm not gonna say anything about a missed shot. I want you to take the shot. If you miss it, you miss it, that's it. I don't like bad passes. I can live with bad shot, I can live with a missed shot, but I want them to take shots. And that's the only way you're gonna get goals. You might miss 8 and score the 9th one, you know, but the thing that you really have to emphasize is the pass. They have to be safe passes. This is one of the first things I learned in water polo many years ago. And Bob Horn used to say this at UCLA. He was a legendary coach at UCLA. Make a safe pass. You know, I'm here, the defender's here, the ball cannot land there. The ball has to land over here. It's a matter of, you make the pass where only one person can get it, the person you're passing it to. So this is just a general concept, but, you know, you have to take chances in this system. There's some gambles involved. When we get into the defense, you'll see there's some gambles on the defensive side too. But you have to allow them to take these chances. And if you start getting on them every time they do something, they're gonna become less and less aggressive. You know, they're gonna be afraid to do something. Now, you don't want somebody out there who's afraid to shoot the ball because, oh, the coach is gonna yell at me, you know. You wanna encourage them to do that. And then if they take the same shot 3 or 4 times in a row, then after you say, okay, next time, don't take it at that angle, maybe improve your angle, move out a little bit, maybe make a correction, something they can use without being angry with them about it. So, this is a pretty important part of this too. It goes all back to that first wave philosophy. You wanna take as many waves as you can, you wanna take as many shots as you can. And you're gonna have a better chance of scoring the more shots you take. Even if, you know, and you don't wanna, maybe you'll have a guy who's not a real strong shooter, you know, and you can't tell them don't shoot the ball because you're not a strong shooter. You know, teach them how to shoot the ball, maybe lob it or something that they can still score, you know, at least get a chance to score, you know. I mean, you may have done this, I did this years ago, is to say, okay, we're gonna let this guy shoot. He's really a weak shooter, and what does he do? He scores the winning goal. You know, so, I mean, and again, everybody feels that they're all part of the system, you know, and you're just not saying, okay, only this guy can shoot. But priorities are fine with drivers. It's up to you to, you know, the thing about priorities is you have the same person driving every single time. The defense is gonna know that too. So they're gonna concentrate on that one person. So ideally you would love to have 6 people that can do everything. You know, that would be the ideal offense if you could get something like that.
So in order for this to work then, you're gonna have to create a huge element of trust involved
Yeah.
with everybody, and you're gonna have to sell the philosophy of it doesn't matter
That's
who
right.
scores, just as long as someone does.
Yeah,
And that every role and responsibility on the team is important as the
yeah,
other one.
that's right, yeah. Yeah, so it's a selling job. You gotta sell your team on this. Believe me, they'll like it. They'll like it.
I
mean,
could see resistance though, like,
Yeah.
I played 2 meters my whole life, you're telling me I'm not a 2 meter player anymore?
Yeah, right.
That's
Yeah.
where
Oh,
you're
that
gonna
kind of
get
thing, sure.
resistance, yeah.
And trust is another thing. Yeah, the 2 meter guy is gonna be resistance the most. But you know what? 2 meter player has just as much a chance of anybody as going in there.
2 meter
The 2 meter
players are
player is
often
just
better
like,
on the move.
yeah, they're just like anybody else. And actually, when they're going, maybe the 2 meter player goes in there on the 3rd drive or the 2nd drive, they're probably gonna be more open than they would if they were the first one that went in there and let the defense set on them in front of them and then sit there and wrestle for position for, 10 seconds.
They're not gonna have to wrestle for
Yeah, exactly.
10 seconds,
Yeah,
15
because, and
seconds.
then, if you got people driving all over the place, that takes the pressure off the 2 meter player. 2 meter player can swim in there, and everybody's concentrating on other drivers, and they won't all drop back in front of the 2 meter man, you know, so.
And it's
You
smart.
can incorporate a 2 meter game.
So this is
in
gonna be a
this.
big sales job of a philosophy
Oh,
and
sure.
kind of
Yeah.
a way
Playing in a
of
different way.
changing it.
And you know what, there'll be resistance, and even parents will come up and say, why are you doing that, you know, and it's just stupid, you know. And, because it's not, you know why? Because it's not what everybody else does.
Right.
It's something different, it's something new. But I would love the whole sport to do this, you know, eventually. I think it would be so much better for the game.
Here's my thoughts on the 2-meter guy too, is in that chaos that you're creating, he's gonna have a matchup.
Yeah,
That
there's
he's gonna, you can sell it to him,
Yeah.
that you're gonna find somebody that's not a guard, that you've been playing guard his whole life.
Yeah, and when you run screens especially, you're
Right.
gonna get a switch. And
Well,
it's gonna be-
everybody has one 2-meter defender, but do they have 4?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
I mean, so we gotta get things.
Well, you know, people are having difficulty weaning themselves off the 2-meter player. If you're gonna have a 2-meter player, put them here instead of in the middle. You know, okay, if I'm the 2-meter player and I receive the ball there, I still kick it. You know, you still draw your exclusions there. Now, you're in the center, you can shoot right or shoot left, but how many shots do you get anyway in 2 meters if people are following you? You're not gonna get that many anyway. So here you could possibly shoot, you could shoot in this direction, but by putting the 2-meter player over here, you would at least open up this side of the goal for driving and for shooting. So that's open, it's better than having the 2-meter player right in the center. So that people slowly can wean themselves off the 2-meter player, and then if that 2-meter player can't get the ball there, move them out here. You
Well,
know?
if you really do have a guy who's that good at establishing the 2-meter position, you can have him be, you know, your second or third guy that goes in.
Yeah.
Hey, there's less than 12 seconds on the shot clock. Go in and you have 12 seconds to hold position
Yeah,
and see what
yeah,
you can do.
yeah.
Everybody else is going to start playing defense.
Exactly.
You can still find something for him.
Yeah.
It's just you have to. It's not going to be, hey, you're going to swim down and you're going to spend 30 seconds in front of the cage doing this thing.
How many times have you put somebody in there to play 2 meters that shouldn't be playing 2 meters? That's all you have? And so because we're playing a 2-meter system, we have to put somebody in there, you know? So you're putting a small person in there, or maybe the biggest guy on the team that swims a 10700 freestyle, you know? So, you know, we play that system no matter what. And so this is what I'm trying to get away from too.
Hey, one thing that surprises me is even when I hear you talk about screens, I've been doing driving things, I've
Yeah.
never had big guys in 2 meters, and plus 2, they're usually not as smart as the other ones in some cases. Guys in general at that age are bad communicators, and sometimes those bigger guys are kind of not as good thinkers.
Right.
But I'm surprised at how many people do not stop a ball side drive.
Yeah, oh,
Even at every, Corona Del Mar, Newport, whatever. I mean, we come out from lowly Redlands or Beaumont or whatever, and we're driving ball side drives, and no one stops it.
Yeah. You run a driving offense,
Yeah.
and we were talking about this on the car yesterday coming from the airport. People do not know how to defend drivers. They really don't.
Well, so you start getting exclusions and penalties because they get caught behind and they grab because it's
Well, then
soft
you
shot.
can also take the ball out of the referee's hand, because those guys, no offense if anyone referees games here, but my gosh, the last thing you want to do is have those guys decide anything for you.
Well, that was what I talked to him before too, is the driving game, the problem we have is the 2-handed hold.
Yeah.
You try to drive and, you know, the referees aren't gonna call it, you know.
Or even if you do have a good opening driving move, half the time they're going to call it as a contra foul because who was holding first?
Yeah,
Well, I was being held,
yeah.
so I helped him to move past him. Well,
I will go over this, how to draw a foul when you're being held. And there's a way to do it that you're not gonna get called for a contra foul. And this whole driving game is, it's a completely new concept for some teams and some players. And it's just that it's not worked on all the time. But believe me, in all the years, when I started playing, we drove. When I was coaching my early years, in fact, the years I was at UCLA as a graduate assistant, I coached at Occidental College, UC Santa Barbara. My first years at Stanford, we drove. That's what we did, and that was the 2-meter and driving were the 2 of the most important parts of the game, and we did it all the time. And certain things happen to take away the driving game, but there's a way to do it that you won't get called for an offensive foul, you know. And when we come back for the second session, I'll get more into detail on driving and setting screens and some of the things you have to do to avoid getting called for an offensive foul and to drive ball side and taking advantage of defenders who don't know how to guard drivers. You know, most defenders are out there like this, right? And this is their defense. You know, that's the defense. And if you can get away from that, or you can really take advantage of somebody that's vertical in the water. What I don't want, if I'm going to drive, that defender's right here, they got their hips up and they're ready for you to go. That's a tough one to drive on. But you can even take advantage of that too.
Well, the fundamentals aren't being taught anymore, So
That's
it's like
right.
you can take advantage of that all day long at
Yeah.
every level
Yeah.
almost.
And you know, eventually teams are gonna have to start playing drive defense, because if more teams start driving, you're gonna have to do something on it as far as defense goes. So, we'll come back at 11:30.